I've always been taught about the importance of stories. My mom's a filmmaker, and so she really inspired me to understand the power of stories. And then as a geographer, the city tells stories. It communicates certain messages about who's in charge, who made this place, and what's the culture of this place, and even values around how we treat the land, how we treat each other. Tansei, my name's Kamala Todd. I am a Métis, Cree, and German mother, geographer, urban planner, filmmaker. I do a whole bunch of things that mostly relate to living on the land and how we live on the land. I don't know my homeland, so I'm very rooted and in love with these territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, currently living in Squamish territories on the Sunshine Coast. In the 80s, when there was a lot of really rising activism amongst Indigenous people and very much like working together. My mom took me to the Friendship Center a lot. I remember we would always end the evening with the round dance or the friendship dance, and it was like people from all different territories coming together in circle. A lot of our early days in Vancouver were moving, so I have experiences with some really beautiful parts of the land, some on the river, some near the ocean, some near the forest. So I was really lucky to always having access to land and recognizing that the city isn't just this permanent, forever thing.
I've always been proud of my mom because she's just been an understanding, caring, and loving person. She's just taught me how the world should be. I could see what was wrong with cities. I could see that it was very colonial and very whitewashed.
I was hired as a social planner to support building relationships with the Aboriginal community. When I started, people didn't even know who the host nations were. And when I'd say, so what's the relationship with the nations? They would be like, well, what do you mean? Then those First Nations are on reserve. We're a city. Why would we work with them? And I'd be like, because we're on their territory. And so we are obligated to have a relationship with the people whose lands we're on. One of the biggest sort of symbolic sites of that erasure has been Stanley Park. For years, there's been totem poles there from other territories that Park Board and other white settlers have decided to place there. And I didn't understand that those totem poles were from other territories until Leah George Wilson from Tsleil-Waututh Nation told me how upsetting it was, and in particular in a place where their ancestors had lived and had been forcibly removed. It was such a powerful moment of learning. So in my role at the city, I conveyed that really important message and story to the public art staff. And they were like, okay, let's address this. My proudest moment is when we were able to have the Susan Point house posts placed in Stanley Park at the village site. And so Susan Point from Musqueam, who's like a master carver, she created 3 house post portals. So people come there and they're welcomed into that. And so to me, that was a big moment in rewriting the story of Vancouver.
I'm looking for skills to thrive off the land. I find school hasn't taught me any of that.
I had a really good teaching once from Michelle Thrush. Years ago, we were working with youth, and she taught us a lot about smudging and medicines and circles. And she kept saying, like, all through life, you create circles of good, and that's really all what it's about. And that really stuck with me, that it's about healing and rebuilding the circle for many of us.
Through her work, I've just learned what it means to be Indigenous, but specifically, just how to be accepting.
If I could tell Indigenous youth one thing, I would really want them to know that they're part of the circle and their story matters, and that they have the right to shape the city, and that they can be placemakers themselves.